Hi, I'm Tara Palmeri, your feared and fearless political journalist, out with another interview with Laura Loomer, one of President Trump's closest advisors, the woman who literally convinced him to fire 6 members of the National Security Council, overruling his own national security advisor, Mike Waltz. This is her first exclusive sit-down interview since that historic mass firing in the Oval Office. She's known for being a far-right conspiracy theorist and an anti-Islamist. At the same time, she also flies around on Trump Force One, and she has a side door into the Oval Office, so she is someone to take seriously.
Laura, how are you? You look so beautiful, as always. You don't want to be Loomered. If you're Loomered, you're in deep trouble. That's the end of your career, in a sense.
But her story is a complex one, because while she has so much power, the ability to dismantle the U.S. national security team, she also feels like an outsider of an administration that she really wanted to join. On this show, we talk about why there's so much infighting in Trump's administration, why he can't trust the people around him, her relationship with Trump, and why he trusts her above his own team.
She makes recommendations of things and people.
We also talk about that meeting 2 weeks ago in the White House when she showed him documents that convinced him to wipe out his national security apparatus. She also shared something with me that's never been reported before about that meeting in the White House 2 weeks ago. There was a very senior official that she was planning to expose to President Trump, but they just so happened to walk into the office just in the nick of time. Take a watch here. Hi, Laura. Thanks for coming on the show.
Thanks for having me.
Of course. I have to say, you're not inside the administration, but you are arguably one of the most powerful people since you basically decimated Trump's national security team. I think your scalp count is at like 60 people at this point. We'll get back to that and the vetting process, but I'm curious. I remember reading a lot about your interest in joining the administration. Like, what happened? Were there any talks?
Yeah, I definitely had talks with President Trump. I was hired by President Trump in his office at Mar-a-Lago when he invited me during the primary between himself and Ron DeSantis in March of 2023. And I had a private meeting with President Trump and Susie Wiles, and it was a great meeting. And it wasn't even supposed to be an employment interview. Ironically, I was just there because President Trump was really impressed by the fact that I got Ron DeSantis to show his hand before anybody else. And I'm referring to, of course, the fact that when I was living in the area of the Villages near Leesburg, Florida, where Ron DeSantis decided to have his first kickoff event for his book tour, which was his shadow presidential campaign, he decided to call the cops on me and several other Trump supporters when we showed up, because I had this idea, let me hold some Trump signs up at Ron DeSantis's book tour to finally prove to people that he is indeed running for president. And so that's all it was. I was just holding signs that said Trump 2024, and Ron DeSantis had the cops called on me and they threatened to arrest us. And then the cop admitted on video that it was because we were Trump people, and Ron DeSantis wanted all the Trump people to go away. And so that's the video that really kicked it all off, the feud between Ron DeSantis and President Trump. And so when I was divulging so much information and opposition research to President Trump during this meeting at Mar-a-Lago, he was just so impressed by my memory and my ability to just rattle off so much information and facts about Ron DeSantis and all of his political opponents. And so he said, Susie, we need to hire her on the spot. She's a lot smarter than a lot of these other morons I have working for me. Like, that's literally a direct quote from Donald Trump. And so I filled out paperwork, and ultimately I was supposed to begin on the 1st of April, and then I ended up getting a phone call at like 7 o'clock in the morning one day from Jonathan Swan over at the New York Times, and I guess one of President Trump's jealous staffers decided that they wanted to leak the information to the New York Times in a plot to kill off my employment. And so it created this whole controversy. And then, Marjorie Trader Green chimed in. And by the end of the day, some unnamed staffer who worked for President Trump, because nobody wanted to put their name to it, said, Laura Loomer will not be joining the Trump campaign. But as you said before, right, I was the one breaking a lot of the stories about his opponents throughout the presidential election season, almost doing more work than some of the people who actually worked for the president, ironically. And I was the one that was getting all these scalps. And so it really has become quite an elephant in the room as to why I don't work in the administration. But look, I mean, President Trump has probably given the directive.
Who's creating the Loomer wall between you and working in the administration?
I don't know, because, everybody's so two-faced, right? So you have President Trump, who obviously loves me, and, President Trump and I get along really well. And I get along with his senior advisors just fine. I mean, I have a lot of respect for Susie Wiles. I don't really know who's blocking me, because the thing is when you go and you see President Trump, all the staff are all smiles, and they ask you how you're doing, and, they show interest in my new company, Loomer Strategies. And, it's always small talk, small talk, small talk. And then somehow, right, this private meeting at the White House with President Trump gets leaked to the media, even though I don't post about it. And somehow CNN's cameras were perfectly positioned, almost like somebody who worked for President Trump tipped them off when I was leaving the White House and, saying goodbye to Howard Lutnick. And it's just interesting, isn't it, how all of this stuff is supposed to be kept under wraps, but then seems like the leaks always somehow come from President Trump's own trusted team.
Do you think it's Susie Wiles?
No, I don't think it's Susie Wiles. Because Susie Wiles is the chief of staff. If Susie Wiles didn't want me at the White House or didn't want me to have a meeting with President Trump, I wouldn't have had my meeting with Trump during the campaign season, and I wouldn't have had my meeting with President Trump in the Oval Office a couple of weeks ago. I really honestly don't know who it is, but the president has at least 4 times in my presence and in the presence of senior advisors given a directive for his staff to hire me. And somehow...
But he can just say, no, I'm hiring her. I mean, he's the president. The buck stops with him, right? Have you ever asked him?
It does stop with him.
Have you ever asked him, why don't you just hire me?
This is why it's such a confusing situation, because the president always says, whenever we have these meetings, oh, hire her. And then they say, oh, don't worry, she's already, we're already in the process of that. But then nothing ever happens. So I don't know. It's very strange. My press pass request also hasn't been approved yet, despite the fact that I was told I'd get press passes. So I honestly don't know. So a lot of people asked me this question, and a lot of people thought that I was working for President Trump during the campaign season. But I really don't know, Tara. It's quite interesting. It's a really interesting situation how I'm able to, when the president decides to, reach out to me and ask me to come visit him at the Oval Office, I'm able to have these direct meetings and phone calls and conversations with President Trump. But somehow his directives to onboard me are always blocked by his staff, who don't want to listen to him. But this is a problem in the Trump administration. I mean, look, President Trump gave the directive to fire several people, as we've seen, right? You mentioned this in the beginning. He gave the directive to fire an individual by the name of Ivan Canopathy, who is a senior director for Asia, working at the NSC under Michael Waltz. But Michael Waltz didn't fire Ivan Canopathy. In fact, he gave him a promotion. So there's a lot of oppositional, defiant individuals who work in the Trump administration. Some of them are very bad at vetting. They don't know what vetting is. Then they tell the president that they do vetting, which I don't know what's worse. Not knowing how to do a vetting operation while working in the West Wing, or lying to President Trump's face and saying that you conducted a vetting operation when you didn't do a vetting operation. I don't know what's worse. Like, I wouldn't want to tell the president that I did something and that I was so good at what I did, when it turns out that all these people, slipped through the cracks, or maybe they were intentionally onboarded to obstruct President Trump and his agenda. But the reality is that there are problems, and nobody wants to admit that there's problems. Nobody wants to address the vetting crisis in the Trump administration. Every day, it's like we see another story of another individual who's anti-Trump, who made some crazy comment about Trump or did something to obstruct his policies, who has been onboarded into a senior level position in some agency within his administration. So there's no accountability. And eventually this is going to create such a crisis, or it's going to create such a problem, that it's going to lead to a real scandal. God forbid it doesn't lead to some kind of impeachment or some kind of a major scandal in the Trump administration. But I worry every single day, I get like agina over it. I worry every single day, Tara, that there's going to be some vetting crisis that leads to a catastrophe in the Trump administration. And you never really see like a name or a face attributed to the chaos. It's just, oh, well, there isn't a vetting crisis, or, oh, these people don't know what they're talking about, or, we hear from the press shop, oh, that scoop is not a real scoop, or, oh, that's fake news. Well, how many times is this excuse going to be given over and over again, for the cleanups for people's vetting screw ups?
Would you want to be in the office of personnel? Is that where you would want to be? the PPO
Well,
office?
I do think there's a vetting crisis, and I have respect for Sergio Gore. I like Sergio very much. But the reality is Sergio can't do everything on his own. And so, yeah, I would like to be in the office of PPO, or, I could even, just work as an advisor or work in communications, because clearly I'm breaking stories and uncovering information that members of his own team are not uncovering and not addressing, just like I did on countless times during the campaign season. I mean, look, it's undeniable that the biggest stories that were broken during the campaign season came from me. It's my reporting. This didn't come from President Trump's own staff. It didn't come from the researchers at the RNC that were working with President Trump. It didn't come from any of these people. I would say that majority of the opposition research came from me and my stories that I broke. I mean, that's why President Trump credits me with destroying Ron DeSantis, right? That's why the biggest stories exposing Nikki Haley that got millions of views during the campaign season came from me and my reporting. It was me who broke this story about Kamala Harris's husband having an affair with the school grade teacher and the nanny, right? That wasn't anybody who worked for the president. That was me.
I want to ask you, though, because at the same time, you do have unprecedented access to him, even though you don't work for him. So who's getting you in? Who is your biggest ally in the White House right now?
President Trump is my biggest ally in the White House.
You just call him and you're like, I'm coming? And he's like, okay, you're on the list?
President Trump invited me to the White House. He wanted me to come. He's the one who invited me to come to the White House to meet with him.
He saw my reporting. Is that how he does it?
He saw my reporting on Alex Wong and Ivan Canopathy, and somehow that reporting was placed on his desk.
And so did he call you directly, or did he have somebody else call you, or how did he, who put it on his desk, for example? Who in the White House is your ally that's making sure
I don't know who put it on his desk. I mean, I assume that, perhaps one of his staffers printed it out, right? Because President Trump has articles printed out, and you never really see him in front of a computer himself. They usually print out articles or things that he needs to see, or information that would be relevant. And I guess that, when I broke the story about Alex Wong and Ivan Canopathy, it created such a controversy that there was a meeting about it at the White House, and then President Trump called me.
Right. But I mean, at the same time, they could have picked up a pickup of it, or somebody's obviously helping you to get in front of him, because they could really be trying to keep you away, but there's someone who is keeping you connected to him all this time. I mean, it's hard to get in touch with the president of the United States.
Well, the president of the United States has my contact information, and I've known President Trump for years. I mean, my friendship and also my connection with President Trump dates back years. So, I ran for Congress in 2020. He voted for me when I ran for Congress in his own home district. So it's not like, it's some conspiracy theory about, oh, wow, how does Laura Loomer have access to President Trump? President Trump has known about me for years. I mean, it was my reporting at Project Veritas that led to Donald Trump becoming a donor to Project Veritas before he decided to run for president. So, I mean, this is dating back all the way to 2015, right? That's 10 years ago.
How often do you guys speak? How frequently would you say?
I mean, look, I don't want to get into details, but the reality is that the problem that exists is that Trump loyalists are getting blocked, and people who have the president's best interests oftentimes get blocked or have their information filtered, or there are these, leaking operations that take place from within the West Wing or from within the White House, where people who feel threatened for whatever reason decide to go leak to the media. And I really honestly think that that's what happened when I went to the White House the other day, because how is it that CNN's cameras were perfectly positioned to capture me leaving? And so that's a problem, because we saw during the first Trump administration that there are leakers, and now there appear to be leakers again who are leaking information about fights between admin officials, leaking information about
but you're such
people.
You're such a good investigator, though. I would think that you would know what's going on in terms of behind the scenes, how this is happening. You know what I'm saying?
I know how it's happening. There's a vetting crisis. I've said there are people who shouldn't be in positions that they're in. How they
keep trying to get you out. That's what I'm saying. I would think that you would know that.
It's hard to tell, like I said, because they say, what do they say? That if you want loyalty and you're in Washington, D.C., get a dog. Well, I have 4 dogs, right? Because I don't like dealing with people. I can't stand people, to be honest with you. I really just don't like dealing with anybody. But people will smile to your face and they'll tell you you're amazing and they'll tell you that they think your work is amazing. And then the next day there's a story about you in the New York Times, or there's a story about you in CNN. I don't know. It's really hard to tell. You work in media, you work in politics. I mean, do you trust all of the people that you have communications with on a daily basis? Let's be honest. This is the most two-faced industry. We're working in the most two-faced industry. I mean, you can't trust people.
I do try to understand, though, like everyone's agenda and their objectives, and I try to talk to a lot of people. I do want to get back to, though, the other week when you were able to, basically put in some suggestions that President Trump fire the national security apparatus, and your input outweighed the national security advisor, Mike Waltz. What's it like to have that much power?
I don't really feel like Mike Waltz has much credibility these days. I mean, the guy created a scandal for President Trump, Signalgate. I mean, I don't know how you accidentally add a reporter from a hostile publication to a Signal chat, but whatever. I guess, there's always going to be mental gymnastics to explain people's screw-ups, I suppose.
Did you express any concerns to him about Mike Waltz?
My focus was more on his deputy, Alex Wong, and the other individuals who Michael Waltz himself personally proclaimed to the president that he personally vetted. And so my concern was, well, if Michael Waltz is the NSC director or the NSC advisor, and he is saying that he's personally vetting these individuals who have a history of anti-Trump remarks and anti-Trump associations, why would he be signing off on them? And then it reminded me of a video that I've saved in my phone for many years of Michael Waltz on video speaking out against President Trump when he first ran for president, accusing him of being against service members. And so, I was about to show this video to President Trump, and then Michael Waltz, walked into the Oval Office. So, there goes my conversation completely interrupted. But look, facts are facts, and you really have to ask yourself if an individual is made aware of somebody's egregious anti-Trump activities or their anti-Trump associations that jeopardize our national security. So then it just makes me wonder. I could play the video. It just makes me wonder.
So when you went to that meeting...
Play the video. Let's just play the video.
He essentially called anyone who was captured in combat a loser. It's something that I just personally can't stomach.
He's a war hero. 5.5 years. He's a war hero because he was captured. I like people that weren't captured.
Don't let Trump fool you. Look into his real record and stop Trump now.
He essentially called anybody captured in combat a loser. It's something that I just personally, can't stomach. So if you can't stomach it, why do you want to work for President Trump? If you can't stomach it, why do you want to work in the administration?
So, Laura, essentially, you walked into that meeting trying to fire Michael Waltz, too.
No, I was not trying to fire Michael Waltz. My question is if Michael Waltz is telling the president of the United States that these people are good people that he personally signed off on and that he personally vetted, well, what does a Michael Waltz vet entail? And is it biased given the fact that he himself has made anti-Trump comments in the past? I wasn't trying to get him removed. I was just making the point that, he's not exactly a Trump loyalist. Like, my idea of what it means to be a Trump loyalist is different from what it means for Michael Waltz, who's on camera lying about President Trump, saying that he called service members losers. Which, if you have conversations with President Trump, he hates that lie. He really hates the lie that people tell about him disparaging, fallen service members. He hates it.
I reached out to Mike Waltz's spokesperson to see if he ever discussed these comments with President Trump. And a Trump administration official responded in a statement, quote, Mike has supported President Trump since after the primaries of 2016. He is a steadfast supporter of the president's America First agenda and works every day to implement it.
I don't want you framing this as, Laura Loomer tried to get Michael Waltz fired. I didn't go in there trying to get him fired. I was just making the point that I'm a Trump loyalist. I never said that I never campaigned against Trump. Michael Waltz was working with a PAC that was trying to actively campaign against Donald Trump in 2016. So my point is Michael Waltz is not going to have the same standard of loyalty that I have because he himself was a Trump hater, right? So I was trying to explain that.
But how would that not make Trump want to fire him?
Well, I think it's important that President Trump see these things. Like, did President Trump see this when he appointed Michael Waltz as his NSC director? I wasn't trying to get him fired.
Again,
but
like,
again,
if
like,
you
it
walk
makes
into
me
a room
wonder,
with that,
did
that's
anybody
like,
show these videos to President Trump?
That's pretty like killer information to show him. Exactly. Like, how would that not get him
unfortunately,
fired?
Michael Waltz walked into the Oval Office right as I was taking out my phone too. Interesting timing.
Well, I guess if you speak to Trump regularly, though, did you ever convey? He's never heard this, though, up until this point.
Well, hopefully he sees the video. Like I said, I'm not trying to get Michael Waltz fired, but I do think it's interesting that he says he personally vetted all of these people. A lot of them are Trump haters, have histories of being Trump haters. And then, what is Michael Waltz's standard of vetting?
Mm-hmm. Right.
He himself is on video attacking President Trump with lies and smears. So is he going to also feel compelled to make a pass for people who are tied to Trump haters or people who themselves have made anti-Trump comments and smears? Right? It's just like, who's doing the vetting? That's my question. I think it's problematic to have somebody who has made extremely derogatory comments about President Trump doing the vetting when they themselves wouldn't even be able to pass a vet. Does that make sense?
He sounds like J.D. Vance, though. I mean, it's not unlike what J.D.
But
Vance
Michael
said.
Waltz has never come clean and apologized for his comments or said that he regrets his comments like J.D. Vance has.
Okay.
J.D. Vance has at least admitted that he called Trump Hitler and that he was wrong and that, he had a meeting with him. He's actually explained his comments, whereas Michael Waltz is sitting there in the shadows hoping that nobody ever finds these, 10-year-old videos. There's a difference, right? If people actually have accountability and they admit that they're wrong and they're apologetic and they say that they made a mistake and they actually own it, then fine, you're owning it. But a lot of these people never apologize. They never address it. They're just hoping that the president never sees it.
But isn't he like a Susie guy? Like, didn't Susie get him in? He's from Florida.
I don't know.
She should know this stuff, right?
I don't know. I mean, look, I have no desire of attacking Susie Wiles. I get along with Susie. I like Susie very much, actually. People are constantly trying to pit me against Susie and say that Susie doesn't want me around. But if Susie didn't want me around, I wouldn't have had a meeting at the Oval Office, right? Yeah. I like Susie very much. And again, she's not responsible for doing Michael Waltz's job. Michael Waltz is the one who looked the president in the eyes and said, I personally vetted all of these people. So I'm not trying to get Michael Waltz fired. My question to Michael Waltz is, what is your definition of a vet? And given the fact that you yourself are on video making anti-Trump comments, do you excuse people in the vetting process who have made anti-Trump comments? I think it's a really reasonable and fair question to ask. I don't know why these things are not reviewed or checked in greater detail by whoever's doing the vetting in the Trump administration. But it's an easy way to identify who's a true loyalist and who's not.
I do want to get back to something that you said. Do you think that Mike Waltz purposely leaked that information to Goldberg, that he purposely added him to that chain?
I have no idea, but I just know that it's very difficult to accidentally add somebody to Signal. There's like 4 steps you have to take. I don't really like Signal. I mean, I use it sometimes, but the reality is when you set up a Signal chat, there's like 4 steps that you have to go through to make sure that you're adding the right person. You even have to verify the safety number with the individual because you can change your safety number on Signal. So
did you explain that to President Trump, like how difficult it is? Does he know that?
I think President Trump knows. I mean, I do my best to try to explain these things, but I don't work in the White House, right? There's a reason why people want to keep me away from having a position in the White House.
You clearly get to talk to him, so that's why I was wondering when you did talk to him, like, did you?
Yeah, look, I mean, I explain these things and I voiced my opinions, and I think that's. I don't want to get into the details of my conversations with President Trump, but I think the president is well aware that, it's very difficult to accidentally add somebody to a Signal chat.
Yeah. So I wanted to go over some of the people that you've suggested should be fired and were fired. But I guess, I've heard that you have a list. Is Mike Waltz on that list? Like, have you told Trump that he should fire him?
I really don't want to get into the names of individuals who are on the list. I think it'd be kind of inappropriate to disclose, details of a private conversation with President Trump.
Yeah. But sometimes you
look,
tweet about
I think
it,
that
or you truth about it.
My focus has
you
always
let it
just
know.
been the vetting, right? It doesn't matter whether it's NSC, NSA, DHS, the State Department. There are problems all throughout the Trump administration as it relates to vetting. And so, when I identify these, I try to get the president's ear, and I try to, inform him about individuals in his administration who could be problematic to enforcing his agenda. And
what is the criteria, though? Like, can we go over someone like General Timothy Ho? He was the head of the National Security Agency and U.S. Cyber Command. Like, what was the criteria for that recommendation?
Again, I really don't want to get into specifics and details of my conversations, but I think that for starters, we can admit that anybody who is a Biden appointee, anybody who was appointed by Joe Biden to a position of national security probably isn't going to be serving in the best interest of our country or President Trump's America First agenda.
It was a promotion. Yeah, I guess you're right. He was promoted from within. But okay, Brian Walsh, though, he's the senior director of intelligence. Like, why was he fired?
Multiple reasons, right? But and I don't want to get into all the details of my conversations with President Trump, but a lot of this also boils down to ideological divides and individuals being told to fire certain individuals within these agencies, refusing to fire individuals. I mean, if you're not going to comply with the president's orders or the president's directives, or you're not going to comply with directives given to you, and you're going to be, protecting LGBTQ agendas within our intel agencies, that's going to be a problem, among many other things.
Do you have concerns about people who were at one time anti-Trump, like someone like J.D. Vance, who wrote for The Atlantic, like Goldberg, and called Trump cultural heroin and like America's Hitler? Like, do you have concerns about people who are converts?
Look, I have concerns about anybody who has made comments that are derogatory towards President Trump and derogatory towards his policies. And I put out a really long statement about this when J.D. Vance was selected as vice president. And the difference is that J.D. Vance at least admits that he was wrong, right? He's not running from it. He at least admitted that he made these comments about President Trump. These other people, on the other hand, are trying to pretend like they're Trump loyalists. They're trying to pretend like they've never said anything derogatory, or that they're working in the best interest of President Trump, or they completely disowned him after the January 6th protests at the Capitol. And then, after the election, they came back trying to wiggle their way in for a position in the Trump administration. There isn't any personal accountability with a lot of these individuals who want to push revisionist history. They want to rewrite history and pretend like they never said anything bad about President Trump, or that they didn't work against him.
I just wanted to bring up one more thing about the NSC stuff while we're still talking about it. But because you have fired a lot of people in pretty big roles,
Well, I didn't fire them. Trump fired them.
Okay.
I don't control. But hey, I mean, if people want to say I fired them, I don't care.
Okay.
Trump is the one who fired them.
Speaking of which, that's a lot of power to have. Like, what is that like to have that kind of power, by the way?
Look, I don't control President Trump, and I simply give him information that I think that he needs to be made aware of, information that his own advisors, all of these geniuses that work for him, I mean, we're told these are the best people, right? We were told, what is it? I only hire the best people, right? That's what we were told. Well, they're the best people and they're geniuses. Why are they not giving him this information, right? Only the best people get to work for Trump, Tara. Don't you know? Right? I mean, that's what we were told.
Yeah. I want to go back to the
only the best people, Tara.
Who are the people who are the worst there that you think need to go, that are there right now, that are close to Trump?
Look, I just want people to do their jobs. I just want people to actually give him the information that needs to be given to him. It seems like there are competing interests within the White House. It seems like there's individuals who have their own agendas, and for some reason, information is not given to him. I'll give you another example. I broke the story on my X account and on my website about Judge Boasberg and Judge Boasberg's daughter. I was told that the information was given to President Trump. Well, then when I spoke to President Trump on the phone and I asked him about this and I told him about it, he was very surprised and said, oh, this is the first time I'm hearing about it. Meanwhile, about 2 weeks had passed from the time that I had that conversation with President Trump, and that individual at the White House said that the information was given to the president. So how is it that President Trump only saw it for the very first time if this staffer is telling me that it was given to him 2 weeks earlier? That's an example of the type of obstruction that I'm talking about. And
But it also
this
might be
isn't
the fact
about-
that they're understaffed. Like, they are cutting through all this government. Like, I want to bring back the idea
Well,
of,
maybe
like,
they,
national...
I don't know, there's a lot of positions that haven't been filled. You know, maybe,
Right, exactly.
maybe they
So-
need to bring more people on, right? There seems to be, and again, I know that people are trying. There are some people who are trying to actively vet people, but you need more people to do this. You can't just have one person in PPO hiring the entire administration. You have to have more people assisting in this process.
Yeah, I want to bring it back to the whole national security, though, part. So if you fire all these people in the national security apparatus, like, are you concerned that they aren't able to refill these positions quickly enough, like that our national security might be at risk because they are understaffed?
I don't think that our national security is going to be at risk.
Really? Like, even the cyber office? Like, when we're constantly under
there's going
attack
to be
from Iran,
appointees.
China?
There's going to be individuals who
Russia?
are more aligned, who actually are appointed by President Trump, somebody that his own advisors or
But when's that gonna
people who are
happen?
aligned with the America First agenda and President Trump's concept of what it means to have strong national security, who will be able to recommend somebody for appointment.
I know, but then when's that going to happen? Because, like, what you're saying is that at the same time, it's like there's a bunch of people who are not the best and the brightest, like you say, but then when are you going to get those people in there, those good people in, when it's taking so long?
Look, it's a good question. It's a good question. When are they? But I don't think that we should fill positions with incompetent people, right? We shouldn't have incompetent people or people who are loyal to Joe Biden in these positions. It's good to get rid of all the holdovers. You know, Obama got rid of all the holdovers. And President Trump was told during his first administration that it would look too political if he got rid of the holdovers. He was manipulated and brainwashed by some of these rhino advisors who told him that he needed to keep these Obama holdovers, you know, within his administration. And they were able then to stage a coup against him.
So,
during
like,
his first term.
Yeah. One of the biggest criteria, though, for you when you're doing your vetting is if they were appointed by a prior president who was, you know, from an opposite party. Like, if you were
it's something
Biden
I definitely
appointee, then
take
you have to be
into
done.
account. Yeah, it's something that I take into account. It's also,
Is there
I also
anyone that
take
you would
into
spare? Like, yeah.
I take into their account their associations. I mean, you know, the general had associations with General Milley. He was also hand selected by General Milley, who, as we know, went to China and said that he would alert the CCP to any actions that President Trump would take against them. I mean, that's treason. President Trump said that he would like to see General Milley convicted of treason. So,
Yeah.
I mean, how do we have people in the NSA or have people at the DOD that have loyalties to General Milley? How does that work? It just doesn't work. People's concepts of what it means to be loyal are conflicting. And so loyalty is something that's very important to President Trump. He talks about it over and over again. And if he would have actually had some loyalty in his administration in the first term, he wouldn't have had a coup staged against him by individuals within his own administration.
Yeah. I want to ask you just about you in general. Like, what is it, like, when do you decide to use this power that you have? When do you think about that? Like, when you know this kind of information, you have as much power as you do. Like, when do you think to yourself, like, okay, it's time for me to make this argument? Because you can't use it all the time.
You know, you have to be strategic. I mean, you don't get to just have the ear of the president every single day. And I don't take that for granted. President Trump is a very busy person. And so, you know, President Trump doesn't want to be bothered with drama. President Trump doesn't want to be bothered with, you know, insignificant conversations. And so if you're going to bother the president of the United States or take up any of his time, it needs to be really important. It needs to be an action item or something that you think is actually going to make a significant difference in our country.
Okay, so if someone had really pertinent information like the information that you're giving to President Trump, how should they go about getting it to him? Like, what's the best way to do it?
They should give it to me. Give me the information. I mean, look, a lot of people have information, but they don't want to release this information because they feel like they don't have the platform or they don't have the ability to get it to President Trump. But I would say that if you're working in the administration and you have information regarding Biden holdovers or people who are working against the president's agenda, they should reach out to me.
Yeah, but how do you have that side door into the Oval Office? Like, how do you get that?
I guess President Trump just likes me.
Mm-hmm. You have a friendship.
Yeah, I would say it's a friendship.
Do you talk about anything?
I don't work for him.
Right. Do you guys talk about like anything else outside of, who he advice from your investigation?
Look, I've had many conversations with President Trump about many different topics, but President Trump's a great person, and he's somebody who I greatly admire, and it's really that simple. There isn't a conspiracy to it. I know that people think, who in the White House is giving you this access? It's really that simple. Is President Trump just calling me up and wanting to have a meeting, and then they put you in touch with the scheduler, and you go to the White House and you have a meeting with the president?
Do you think he would give you security clearance to like go even further and really dig in even more so than you can?
I don't
right
work
now?
for the administration. I have no idea. I haven't asked for anything like that. Really, just my focus is making sure that President Trump is surrounded by loyal people, and that people who are working against his administration and working against his agenda are exposed. And the president even said himself when he was asked about it on Air Force One, he said that, Laura's a great patriot. She's a great person. She's been in the party for a very long time. And sometimes she gives me suggestions and I take her advice. And, other times I just listen to the information. I mean, that's literally on video, the president on Air Force One saying that. Sometimes the president asks me my opinion on things, or sometimes I get information to the president that I think is relevant, or things that he needs to know. And sometimes he uses it, sometimes he doesn't. But it's better to know these things, whether the president is going to act on it or not. I think it's important that the president has this information. And what concerns me is that there are people who work for him who are intentionally blocking his access to this information. Or they're trying to block people like me from working in the administration. I mean, if the president of the United States gives a directive and says that this person needs to be hired, and then he, delegates it to his staff to get it done, the question is, why is it not getting done? And if it's happening to me, who else is it happening to? And what else? What kind of information is getting blocked from the president?
He can just do it, though. He can just do it himself. Like, I don't know. At some point, do you think he's kind of talking out of both sides of his mouth?
I don't think he's talking out of both sides of his mouth. I think that there's an administrative state and there is a delegation process, and the president of the United States isn't going to be handling paperwork. I think that if the president of the United States tells a senior staffer, an advisor, to make sure that she's in my administration and it doesn't get done, that is somebody intentionally obstructing a directive from the president of the United States. And I don't know why it's not a bigger story than it is. I don't know why this is, presented like it's a conspiracy. It's insulting to me. It's like people think that I'm making it up, or that people think that, I was never actually hired, or that I was never offered a job. It's just not true. And I'm constantly gaslit by people in the media. First it was, Laura's so crazy. She's banned from having access to Trump in the White House. She's banned from Mar-a-Lago. Obviously, that's not true. Obviously, it's people who are very threatened by my friendship with President Trump and the fact that I'm able to get him this information, that are putting out these fake stories and narratives about me because they want to tarnish my reputation, or they want to lie about me. The bigger story is that the president of the United States is acting on stories that Laura Loomer is breaking. If the president of the United States revoked Hunter Biden's Secret Service because of Laura Loomer's reporting, if the president of the United States fired NSC and NSA advisors because of Laura Loomer's reporting, why is his own press shop blocking her from getting press access? Why don't people start asking questions of the media? It's kind of weird that nobody wants to talk about this.
Are you invited to events? Are you treated like
no? That's why when you say who's my biggest ally in the White House, it's literally Donald Trump. Donald Trump is my biggest ally in the White House. I don't get invited to events. I wasn't invited to that shit show known as Bindergate. What an embarrassment for President Trump that was. I'm glad I wasn't invited to that. But no, I don't get invited.
There was nothing in there. Yeah.
I mean, it's just a joke, it's a joke. And maybe some people don't want me around because I'll actually call this out, right? I'm not going to be a sycophant and sit there and pretend like every little thing that is done, is great. Like, oh, wow, let's put an island that doesn't have any human beings on it, that only has penguins inhabiting it, on the list for countries that are going to be subjected to 10% tariffs. There's a lot of incompetence in the White House. There's a lot of people in positions that they shouldn't be in, and they embarrass the president on a daily basis.
Who would you fire if you could? Who would you tell him to fire next if you could?
I don't know. It's probably not appropriate to say that on air.
You just suggested that someone who was involved in the tariff operation.
Well, I mean, look, it is kind of stupid, don't you think? I mean, you and I'd say, are probably on opposite ends of the political spectrum. Don't people think it's kind of stupid that somebody working for President Trump told him to enact 10% tariffs on a bunch of penguins? I mean, I don't think that it makes you anti-Trump for admitting this or saying it. It's just basic things like this that people try to brush under the rug and act like, oh, you know, it's no big deal. We're all just one big happy family at the White House. Everybody gets along. It's just not true. They don't get along. The advisors don't get along with each other. The heads of agencies don't get along with each other. Well, I mean, look, there's all these stories that you hear about people having fights, and then they ask about it during the press briefings, and people say, oh, that's fake news. I mean, I don't think it's fake news, personally. I don't. It's unrealistic to think that everybody in the administration is going to get along on everything 24/7. So, I don't know, maybe they don't want people around, or there's people in the White House who don't want people around who are actually going to call things like this out. I really honestly have no idea who it is that blocks me, because as I said before, people are so nice to my face and they'll say things like, oh, you know, we think you're great, you're wonderful, you're this, you're that. But then somehow all my private meetings get leaked to the media. It's interesting, right?
A lot of people want to know, like, about you, who you are. I know we were talking earlier that you were born in Tucson, like you ran for Congress, like, who is Laura? Like, how would you describe yourself to my audience for people who don't know you?
Well, I'm an investigative reporter. I got my career started working with Project Veritas and James O'Keefe, and I was the president of the College Republicans. I ran for Congress twice in Florida. I was the first deplatformed candidate in United States history. That means that I was the first candidate for federal office that was denied all access to social media. I am the most banned woman in the world, in the sense that I've been banned on every single social media platform. I still don't have access. I only got my X account back when Elon Musk purchased the company. But to this day, I'm still banned on all the other social media sites and, you know, all the payment processors. And people call me a far-right extremist, but at the end of the day, like, I hate both party establishments. I'm not, you know, necessarily loyal to the Republican Party. Am I a registered Republican? Yeah, I'm a registered Republican, but I'm not going to vote Democrat. But I have disdain and contempt for both political parties. And so there's nothing far-right about me. I'm just focused on accountability. I'm focused on bringing the truth to light, and for some reason, a lot of people have a problem with that. But I think that I have been a victim of character assassination over the last 10 years of my life. There's been a lot of nasty things said about me, a lot of false accusations. And as I said before, character assassination, people going out of their way to accuse me of being a white supremacist or a Nazi, or things that can just, you know, destroy your reputation.
You have said that you are openly anti-Islamist, like that.
Yeah, but why? You know, do you think that Islam is good for women? Are you a woman for Islam? Do you want to cover that beautiful hair of yours in a burqa and, you know, be subjected or stoned if, you know, if you get sexually assaulted when you're, you know, walking down the streets of New York City one day and 4 men weren't there to witness your sexual assault? Because that's what they do to women in Islamic countries. So yeah, I'm anti-Islam.
That's not in the Quran. That's
our Sharia societies. That's what they practice in Islamic societies. Subjugation of women, subjugation of homosexuals. I consider myself to be a human rights activist. And so I don't want to see gays tossed off roofs. I don't want to see women subjugated. I don't want to see, you know, anti-Semitic acts and hateful acts against Christians. I don't want to see that. That has no place in Western society. And so I don't think that there's anything wrong with calling yourself anti-Islam. I don't hate Muslim people. There are many Muslim people who I know, and, you know, I've had nice conversations with them.
You understand how what you're saying, it could be very offensive to people, but also the idea that 9/11 was an inside job.
It's offensive to me that Muslims are going around subjugating women and killing homosexuals. That's very offensive to me. So
not all. Yeah, I mean, these things happen, but it's not. I mean, listen, I don't want to get into this, but the other thing that obviously comes up often when describing you is that you say that 9/11 was an inside job. And so that's like another.
Yeah, but that's the thing, though, is that they just blatantly lie about me. So it's funny, isn't it?
So you don't believe that, though?
No, I never said that 9/11 was an inside job. I shared a video, and it was about how the United States government couldn't account for a certain amount of money and you could find the video on X, but if people want to really see the tweet for themselves, but it was a video that somebody else had made. And I was talking about how there's all these accounting errors within the Pentagon and, you know, the United States government, and how there's been multiple instances in times of war or right before acts of war, like the war on terror or, you know, the war between Russia and Ukraine, where the United States government has had these egregious accounting errors. Like, oh, you know, we couldn't account for $6 billion that accidentally got sent to Ukraine, or, oh, you know, we couldn't account for $388 million that accidentally got sent to the Taliban. And I was pointing this out because it happened right before 9/11 as well. And then the person who made the video, at the end of the video, had a frame, because I'm explaining it, said 9/11 was an inside job. I mean,
those are loose strings to pull together, I would say.
What do you mean loose strings to pull together? I already said I don't think that 9/11 was an inside job. I think that 9/11 taught me everything I needed to know about Islam.
Well, that's interesting to get that perspective from you. And you do understand why, though, that those thoughts about Islam might make people not want to have you in a government job, though, right?
That's fine. I mean, I'm anti-Islam. If being anti-Islam and pro, you know, preservation and speaking out against Islamic Jew hatred is going to keep me out of the government, then fine. I guess I wouldn't have been able to win my congressional campaign and served with Ilhan Omar and Rashida Tlaib because they're so exemplary of people who, you know, are serving in government. Refusing to condemn Hamas, supporting the Muslim Brotherhood, saying that 9/11 was something that some people did. I mean, there's just such a double standard, right? It's hard to take these things seriously. And, you know, that's why I just don't care when people say, oh, you know, she's anti-Islam. And yeah, so what? So what? Like, what's the problem with being anti-Islam? At least I own who I am. At least I'm honest about who I am. I'm not trying to pretend to be somebody that I'm not. That's the thing. What you see is what you get with me. And a lot of people have a problem with that. I'm very honest about who I am. I've always been very honest about who I am and what I stand for and the causes that I support and the things that I believe in. But Washington, D.C. is a fake place with fake people. And they don't want somebody around them who is comfortable in who they are and the things that they believe in. And so that's their problem. That's not my problem.
I want to ask you about Bill Maher. If your defamation lawsuit is successful, are you worried that might open you up to lawsuits as well?
What kind of lawsuits? Bill Maher said that I was having sex with President Trump, and he said that I'm not smart enough to be invited as President Trump's guest to the debate. It's kind of crazy that he says that I'm sleeping with President Trump when he has no evidence of this.
But some people might say that you ruined their professional careers by accusing them of, you know, trying to thwart the president or being engaged in treason. They might say the same thing, that you ruined their livelihoods.
I'm not the one who fired them. It's not a crime to present factual information to the president of the United States. I'm not making up conspiracies in my head. I'm showing the president of the United States people's working histories and things that they have said in writing. I'm not saying, oh, this is my personal opinion. I'm showing the president of the United States statements that have been made by people and things that they have done, things that are on their own resume. And then the president is intelligent enough to make, you know, these decisions on his own about who he wants to fire.
Do you think he feels good about his staff?
I hope so. I mean, they're his staff at the end of the day. Hopefully we don't see a repeat of the first administration. I hope he feels good about his staff.
Yeah. I mean, you said there's a lot of infighting going on. Like, that's not a good sign.
Well, I mean, it all comes down to vetting at the end of the day. I think that a lot of people were embarrassed by Signalgate. A lot of people were...
Do you think that people should have been fired from Signalgate?
I mean, look, if anybody was going to be fired, it was going to be Michael Waltz, right? But he didn't fire Michael Waltz. So Michael Waltz is the one who now is taking responsibility for the chat. So if Michael Waltz wasn't fired, like, why? There's conversations about whether or not Pete Hegseth should be fired. Why should Pete Hegseth be fired if Pete Hegseth wasn't the one who created the chat?
Well, he did send off all those, you know, he did send out all of those messages.
A lot of people posted messages in the chat. That's my point about it.
But he sent out
for the Trump
he
administration.
sent out clearly classified information. That's the problem.
But the problem was created if the government said that Signal was an approved form of communication, which is kind of crazy. I mean, I didn't
But
know
not
that
for
Signal was an
classified
approved
information.
form of
Not for classified
form of
information.
sharing information. What's crazy to me is how there's calls to fire other people aside from the people who actually were involved in the creation of the chat. I'm not calling for Michael Waltz to be fired either. I just think that it's kind of ridiculous to assume that there isn't infighting in the Trump administration when clearly a lot of people were very pissed off who work for President Trump as it relates to the scandal that erupted and the time that it took away from the president's accomplishments and his other agenda items, wasting time talking about Signalgate. Wasting time talking about the vetting screw-ups and, you know, these vetting failures by the geniuses who work for him.
Yeah.
So I can't imagine that President Trump or a lot of his staff would be happy about these actions taking place. But the White House wants to create this narrative for the public that, you know, what is it they say? Boys will be boys, right? Boys will be boys.
Yeah, they want to make it seem like
it's
everything
fine.
is going fine, always.
I don't really think it's appropriate for advisors of the president to be, you know, calling each other retards on social media. If you support the president of the United States and you are working together in the White House, why not just have a professional meeting, right? But
Do you think that Elon Musk is like a huge distraction? I mean, with all of his...
I mean, look, I've already said in the past that Elon, you know, creates distractions. He's the richest man in the world. So, of course, you know, the media is very focused on Elon Musk and his companies, and it's not even an attack on Elon Musk to say that he's a distraction. He is a distraction. Of course he's a distraction. He's the richest man in the world. He has baby mama drama. He has all of these companies at the center of our economy. So that's why he's a special government employee and not an official government employee. And so
do you
his
think
time
that
is
Trump
coming to an
agrees,
end,
though?
though. He's done. He's done in like a month.
But do you think Trump agrees with you that it's like his use has been, he's no longer useful, or?
No, I think that Elon has accomplished some good things, but there's a lot of people in the administration who are distractions. And again, it's not an attack on Elon Musk to say that Elon is a distraction. These things are distractions. And you've seen that
And Trump agrees.
the initiatives by the left, like groups like Indivisible, for example, that are organizing all these protests and the anti-Trump movements, their protests are literally called Musk or Us. They have a whole entire initiative right now encouraging people to show up to town halls during the congressional recess to say Musk or Us. You're going to choose Musk or Us. So how could you not admit that it's a distraction? Of course it's a distraction.
Has he ever like suggested to you that it outweighs the benefit?
No, I don't have conversations with President Trump about Elon Musk.
Is it what is it like? Is it just about vetting? Is that what he wants to know about? Like what you're digging about?
I mean, look, I have conversations with President Trump about many things. I don't think it's appropriate. Unlike a lot of the people that work for President Trump, I don't leak the contents of my conversations with President Trump.
Do you think that's why he trusts you so much, though? Because like you keep his...
I don't know. I can't speak for President Trump, but I'm a loyal person, and I don't disclose anything private that shouldn't be disclosed. I mean, I've proven myself to be a very loyal person, and, you know, I'm not a wealthy person. I clearly don't have, you know, millions or billions of dollars to throw around or donate like some of these other people in the administration do. So there's clearly a reason why sometimes President Trump seeks my advice or invites me. I can't speak for the president, but I have been very loyal to President Trump, and I'm a dedicated supporter, and I don't think that I've ever steered the president wrong in any of the information that I've given him. I think that the president is oftentimes very outraged by the information that he gets from me, and he oftentimes on the campaign trail wanted to know why other people who worked for him weren't giving him this information. So you'd have to ask President Trump why.
Oh, so he was expressing disappointment. Why do you think there's so many untrustworthy people around him?
I think there's a vetting crisis that's been made clear. President Trump is a very forgiving person. He's a very gracious person. He tends to forgive a lot of people, even people who have said horrible things about him or done horrible things to him. He's a lot more gracious and forgiving than I'll ever be. That's for sure. But he's a very gracious person. And a lot of people portray him in a negative light, and they try to make him out to be some kind of villain or out to be some horrible, mean person. But the president is actually one of the kindest, most generous, and most forgiving people I've ever met in my life. And he probably shouldn't be.
Do you feel like you need to protect him?
It's not my job to protect the president of the United States. That's what Secret Service is for. Clearly, Secret Service doesn't do a very good job doing that, as we learned on, the day of the Butler assassination attempt. But I think that he does need to have people in his corner who protect him with information. I'm not going to sit here and say, President Trump is never going to have any success, or President Trump is going to have his life in danger unless Laura Loomer is around the president 24/7. I mean, I don't have delusions of grandeur, but I certainly do believe that a lot of the information that I have given him has protected him, and it has prevented disasters from happening, and it has helped his legal team, and it has helped protect President Trump. I don't want to speak for President Trump. There's a lot of people who work for the president, or, who know the president, who love speaking for him and putting words in his mouth. It's not my place to speak for the president of the United States, or to tell people, why he may do something, or what he's thinking, or why he does what he does. I don't know. But I believe that the information that I provide is valuable. And I believe that it has proven itself to be an asset to President Trump and his apparatus. I don't know why some of the people that work for him don't want that information around him, but I'm not going to let that stop me. I'm going to keep on uncovering information and finding ways to get it to President Trump, and informing President Trump about individuals within his inner circle or within his administration that are working against his agenda. Don't you find it to be a little bizarre? You have to admit. I know that as a reporter, you have to be neutral, as they say, but don't you think it's a little weird?
That what? What's weird?
The elephant in the room here. It's kind of weird, isn't it? How the president of the United States invites me to events and invites me to the White House, and yet his staff are so adverse.
Yeah, that's why I'm just like, who is it? Who's the person
presence.
who's the person who's vetting you? That's the question.
You should go find out. You should go investigate. It could be an exclusive. Tara Palmeri investigates. You can go find out. That's my question to all these reporters. Go find out. Go ask. Nobody's ever asked them in the White House press briefing, why has Laura Loomer's White House press pass not been approved yet? Yeah. Laura Loomer sent text messages to Caroline Leavitt and Stephen Chung's cell phone numbers asking for her press credentials to be approved. Why have those press credentials not been approved?
Yeah.
Somebody should go ask. Somebody should ask the question.
So you at one time considered working for Kanye West. Like, you thought about being his campaign manager.
I never considered working for Kanye West, first of all. Kanye West approached me because he said that I was one of the Jews that he actually liked because I was pro-free speech. I told Kanye West that it was not a good idea to run for president. And I told him that the individuals who were trying to get him to run for president, including Milo Yiannopoulos and Karen Giorno, were just trying to rip him off, and that he should disassociate himself from those individuals.
Okay, so now you have your own strategy firm, Loomer Strategy. And it's kind of a thing, like a DC thing, to start up your own strategy shop. Do you have any clients yet? Are they trying to use you for access to Trump? Like, that's kind of how it works.
I have clients. Look, we offer a lot of different services. I have my political consulting, my opposition research, my executive level vetting. There's another service called matrimonial due diligence. There's a lot of rich people, we may know some, Tara, who have problems with their women, their sexual partners. And maybe they want to know whether or not these women are...
Why is it always the women, Laura?
Plotting to honey... Hey, look, my services are also available to rich women, too. It's available to anyone. You don't just have to be rich. But there are vetting needs. And I think that we've seen some pretty high-profile examples of vetting deficiencies over these last few months. including from individuals, pretty high profile individuals who serve in the Trump administration. So it doesn't matter whether you're the richest man in the world, the president of the United States, or just an average person. Everybody has vetting deficiencies. And I think that everybody could use increased vetting. And that's a service that I'm good at. And that's a service that I'm going to be providing at Loomer Strategies. We do have clients. We have a lot of interest from...
What kind of clients do you have already?
Some Republican candidates who are involved in primary campaigns. We have some private corporate clients, private executives, and every day, I'm fielding new.
Some of these like companies, they name their clients though on their websites. Like who is your?
Oh, we don't
client?
name our clients. It's very confidential. We have very strict NDAs, non-disclosure agreements with our clients to protect their privacy.
How many people do you have on staff?
It's a small operation right now. I don't want to say how many exactly, but it's a very small operation. We're hoping to expand. But I think that Loomer Strategies is going to be making a lot of waves in the upcoming primary season. We have a lot of high-profile Senate and congressional primaries coming up, and a lot of gubernatorial races as well. And we like to say at Loomer Strategies, hire us or your opponent will. Information's a weapon, and you want to be sure that you are armed with information that is going to kneecap your political opposition before they are able to politically kneecap you.
How much what are your rates? Like, how much do you charge an hour?
It's on a case-by-case basis. It's really built into packages. It's not done on an hourly basis. And so we assess the client's needs and what they're going to need and how long they're going to need it for. And each package and each contract is really constructed and put together in a concierge manner. So there isn't a one-size-fits-all price sheet. It really depends because we try to really cater to our clients' needs and the different things that they're interested in doing, because not everybody is interested in accomplishing the same goal. Sometimes people want information, but they don't want the information distributed. Other clients want the information and they also want the information distributed. So it really just depends on what they want.
What if a client wants help getting access to Trump? Like, would you help them with that?
I don't do that. I don't sell access.
Would you at least show them
that's
how
illegal. That's illegal. I would never do that.
That's what a lobbyist would. It's like lobbying. Like you put in a good word. It's not selling access. You know what I mean? But like, would you do that? Because you do have access.
No,
to Trump.
I don't.
Or they say, can you put in a good word for me, Laura, next time you talk to him? Like that kind of thing.
No, I don't think it's ethical to sell services like that.
Would you teach them like how to get in front of him or keep a connection with him like you do?
No, President Trump has nothing to do with my business, Loomer Strategies, and I think that that's unethical. Look, I really value my friendship with President Trump. I don't look at it as some kind of a monetary enhancement or some kind of friendship that could be exploited for monetary gain. I really cherish and value my friendship with President Trump, and I do consider him to be a friend. He's somebody that I really admire, and so I would never want to exploit my access to President Trump. I mean, look, a lot of people have asked me in the past, can you help me get access to President Trump? Can you help get this to President Trump? And I think it's inappropriate, personally.
Is there anyone in history like that you would compare your relationship to President Trump to? Because a lot of presidents have friends that are outside of the White House who give them advice. Like, is there anyone that you've thought of in history that you would compare your relationship to?
No, I mean, it's just, President Trump knows a lot of people. He talks to a lot of people. I don't necessarily think that my friendship or, my relationship with President Trump is, extraordinary compared to his relationships with other people. I just think that for some reason, the media wants to be outraged by it. They constantly want to find outrage over something. And they've decided to create this narrative that President Trump seeking my advice or President Trump communicating with me or having a friendship with me is somehow strange or unwarranted or unusual.
You were able to fire his entire National Security Council apparatus. That's pretty big.
I said, I present information to the president and he makes his own decisions. And sometimes he's, extremely outraged by the information that I present to him. And he wants to know why other people who work for him don't give him this information.
Did he yell at Mike Waltz when he saw this? When he saw it?
I don't want to disclose what happened inside the meeting, but I mean, it's already been reported that Michael Waltz was there, but you know.
And he tried to make the case for his people.
I mean, it has been reported that Michael Waltz told the president that he personally vetted all of these people.
And the president said, why is Laura saying this? And he went with you over.
I'm not going to say what President Trump said, but I think it's clear what happened. You know, look at the aftermath of the meeting. People were fired. I don't think that Michael Waltz did such a good job vetting these people.
Is he the next scalp? Is he the next one?
I don't have anything against Michael Waltz, honestly. I just want people to do a better job vetting. And look, Loomer Strategies is more than happy to assist the administration in their vetting needs. I mean, if they don't have enough competent people working in the administration who can do the vetting for them, Loomer Strategies is more than happy and more than willing to provide the vetting service.
Are there more to come, though?
Absolutely. I mean, every single day I'm looking into administration officials and people who are working in different agencies who are subverting the president's agenda. And I am compiling more lists every single day. But I think it's more effective to do things, you know, as a completed list as opposed to just having one-offs, right? It's not every day that you get to get the president's ear. He's a very busy man.
Yeah. All right. Well, thanks so much for your time, Laura. This was great. Appreciate you coming on the show.
Yeah, I appreciate you having me on. And like I said, maybe you'll be the reporter to break that scoop, Tara, you know, find out. You could find out who's blocking me inside the White House. Everybody wants to know.
I think there are probably a number of people, but yeah, I think I'm more curious as to why President Trump doesn't do it himself. But
people should ask. There's White House press briefings. Maybe people should go ask.
Yeah. All right. Well, thanks so much. Okay.
Yeah, thanks for having me on. I appreciate it.
To support my journalism, please hit that subscribe button and share this with your friends. To get my reports first and straight to your inbox, consider becoming a subscriber to my newsletter, The Red Letter, at tarapalmeri.com. You can also become a VIP member of this channel, or even go a step further if you have the means by donating to my GoFundMe page. You can find it in the description to the show. See you again soon.